Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will talk about passives and causatives. Let's start. So, we will talk about passives and causatives in two parts. In part 1, we will cover passives. And in part 2, we will talk about reported passives and causatives. So, let's start with part 1. So, let's firstly talk about what passive is. So what is passive or what is passive voice? Some grammar books name this grammar point as passive voice, okay? And you can simply say passive. So what is passive? Now, passive, we use passive when the doer of the sentence or subject is not important. So, in every sentence, we have a subject, right? But sometimes the subject of the sentence is not very important. But the object of the sentence or the action itself is more important than the doer. So here we have two things. Sometimes the object of the sentence is more important, and sometimes the action itself is more important. So if the object is more important or if the action itself is more important than the subject, then we use passive voice. Now what does that mean? The object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive sentence. So you have an active sentence. Let's take this one as an example. People sell electronic items in digital stores. Now, if you look at this sentence, people sell electronic items in digital stores. Of course people sell them. This is not too important, right? Who will sell these items? Of course people will sell them. So the doer is not important for us. But here, what is important is electronic items. So electronic items is the object of the active sentence. Now in passive sentence, it becomes the subject, because this is more important for us, all right? So in passive sentence, we say electronic items are sold in digital stores. So this sentence answers the question of where are electronic items sold? Electronic items are sold in digital stores, not somewhere else, okay? So mostly they are sold in digital stores. If you look at this passive sentence carefully, everyone, you will see that people is not used here. You see? So if the subject is not important at all, then you just get rid of it, right? Or people set up a camp here every summer. Well, of course people will set up the camp. Who else can set up a camp, okay? So, for this reason, people is not important here, okay? But camp is important. So, a camp is set up here every summer. As you see, the object of the active sentence becomes the subject of the passive one, all right? But of course, it's not all too simple, all right? So we will continue talking about what passive is, all right? So only transitive verbs, that is, verbs that can take a direct object. So some verbs take a direct object. Some verbs do not take a direct object. But only transitive verbs, verbs that can take a direct object, can be used to form a passive sentence. If you want a passive sentence, you need a transitive verb. Now, what does that mean? Christopher Columbus discovered America. Now, America is the direct object, okay? So, discover is a transitive verb. It can take an object, okay? So with discover, you can form a passive sentence. So the passive form is America was discovered by Christopher Columbus. So here, America is more important than Christopher Columbus. So we have America as the subject. But we cannot form a passive sentence with intransitive verbs. This is not possible. I'm sorry. I go to school every day. Now, you might say, teacher, we have school here. School can be a direct object. Well, yes, school can be a direct object, but here we say, I go to school. So that means it's a place name. It's a place name. Place names and times cannot be objects. In the morning cannot be an object, for example. That's a time phrase, right? So go to school, this is a phrase of place. This is a noun phrase, but it's talking about a place name, all right? So this sentence cannot be made passive, okay? So when do we use passive? Let's talk more about this point. So when we don't know, sometimes we just don't know who did the action. There is an action, there is an activity, but who did this activity, we don't know. So let's give an example. Someone stole our bicycle yesterday. So someone, but we don't know who. Who, we don't know. So this sentence, it's not incorrect, but it's not common, it's not natural. We don't use it like this. But what is important is our bicycle. Our bicycle is gone. It was stolen, all right? So our bicycle was stolen yesterday. We don't know who stole our bicycle, all right? Or people built this monument 5,000 years ago. Well, of course people built that, but we don't know who exactly built this. What civilization built this monument, we don't know. So we simply say, this monument was built 5,000 years ago. We don't know who built it. Of course it's people, but which civilization, what community built that, we don't know that. All right? Or, when the job or the action itself is more important than the person who does the action. So of course sometimes you know who does it, but it's not important. We talked about this point actually. So, oh, a painter has painted your house. Well, of course a painter has painted my house, but this is not important point. Important point is your house has been painted. It looks different now, right? Or the government will buy our product at the end of the season. Now here, of course, the government is important. Who will buy our product? It's the government. That's important. But more importantly, we are producing something and we want to sell it. Selling this product is more important than who will buy it, okay? So our product will be bought by the government at the end of the season, all right? So the action is more important. Another point about passive is we use by plus person only when the doer is important. Otherwise, we do not tell who does the action. Now, sometimes doer is also important, such as America was discovered by Christopher Columbus. Now here, Christopher Columbus is important, all right? But America is more important in our sentence. So, another example, Mona Lisa was painted by Davinci. Here, the painting Mona Lisa is more important. So we form this as passive. But we also give the name Davinci. Now, if we don't give this name, this will be a very interesting sentence. Mona Lisa was painted. Of course it was painted, but who did that? By Davinci. Or, the pyramids were built by the Egyptians. All right? Here, by is used because the Egyptians are important for us. Who built this? The Egyptians built the pyramids. So we talk about them by using by. All right? But look at this sentence. The poor man was murdered on a train by a murderer. Now here, by a murderer is not important because the important thing here, first of all, we don't know who did it. Secondly, it's not important for us. Of course, a murderer killed him. So we just say, the poor man was murdered on a train. Full stop. That's it. By a murderer is not necessary. Or, my mobile phone was stolen in the cafe last week by a thief. Now, of course, it was stolen by a thief. So this is not important. The important part is up to here and it finishes right here. My mobile phone was stolen in the cafe last week. That's it. All right? Right, so in this part, we talked about what passives are and why and when do we use them. Now let's take a short break right here, and after the break, we will talk about passive structures, how we make passives, how we form those sentences, everyone. See you after the break.